Well, hello to everybody. Fred Whitford at Purdue University with Extension. I've been working in this area of pesticide application, not only with farmers, but lawn care, pest control, right-of-way, all of the groups. And so for about 35 years, and I have to tell you, it hadn't been until recent years that I focused in on this storage issue that we're going to bring up. This is a very simple talk with large implications. So you and I will often, if you're in the pest control industry, which product against which pest, what about the timing of that stage, how to do the IPM around it, cleanliness. If I'm doing turf as an example, how do I control the weeds when they're really, really small? There's a whole science on the application side. But if you think about it, it all starts off in the storage room. And it was something that I had not thought of until, let's say, in the last 5 years. And this is what we're going to focus on is managing the products, because if we mix products that look good, but they're actually defective coming out of the storage room, then it defeats everything that we've tried to accomplish. So, very quickly, most of you realize that these particular products have got an active, the part that kills, and for the most part, that remains pretty stable over time. And then we have the co-formulants that you and I call inerts. And that's the parts that can more easily break down in storage. And so the question is, well, how long does this stuff last? And you can see in the lower right-hand side where the inerts have failed and have just come out of suspension. So when we focus on these products, it could be the inerts, and it could also be the active. Now, how long these products last, if I was to ask you, do they break down over time? And your answer is almost universal, yes. What we don't have, unlike the medications, is expiration dates. Like on this one on the left is 10 of 2022. We don't have those on our particular products. And you understand that expiration means they don't want you using it. Then there's this milk, November 26th. Um, and so that is, in fact, the expiration date of milk. But you know that if you open up milk, it may not last that long because there's microbes in it. But you also know that it might last up to a week later before it becomes rancid. And we call that the shelf life. All right. Now, here are the canned goods. You look in your pantry, they all got dates. We use the dates, and you can see here by March the 3rd, 2021. And a lot of us got old cans that we've got left in it. And the shelf life for these are about 2 years, as long as they haven't been opened. But the quality is best used by March the 3rd, 2021 in this example. Now, as I said, with very few exceptions, there's no expiration dates on our products. And I'll tell you that the warranty offers no clues on these dates. So we're sort of left in the dark. And what I learned by doing a publication that we will show you at the end is that the manufacturer has to show EPA that the products can last up to 3 years is the current number. So for me, if that's the proof that the inerts and the actives are still holding up, then that's what we're going to use 3 years. And everything is going to be based on that. I want a quality program, a pesticide, and it could be an insecticide, a fungicide, a herbicide, a rodenticide, makes no difference. I want to use them up in about 3 years. And that's from the manufacturer to the distributor to you. And the system works pretty good, not to wait till the last minute to sell you specific products. 3 years. And so what we want to do is to give you some suggestions about how to ensure that you're using that 3 years. Well, within that 3 years. And the first one is not to buy more than a 2 year supply that you can use up within the next year or the year after. Now, we oftentimes will buy it to get a price break from the distributors who are selling these products. But again, if you don't use a whole lot of a particular product, what's the point in the event that it could lose its efficacy over that time?
The next item, in order to look at how we're storing these materials, is to ensure that we're not overbuying just to get the price on volume discounts. So what you like that I'm seeing right here is I see actually not a whole lot of product as we're going into the fall now. He doesn't have a lot of product being stored here, that he's used up most of the product. So he has a good feel for how much they're using. Secondly, the more products you have up here, the more money you have just sitting. So what I'm going to try to do by moving this product is to keep it from freezing. I know that I'm using it up within that year. That's the beauty of it. Okay. So the less I have going into the winter means I've used up most of it during that first year, which almost guarantees me that the product's still good.
And I hope that makes sense to you, that if you have a whole lot going from year to year and you have them in, I mean, some of these boxes are a couple grand when on these particular jugs. And so the less I can have going into winter, that's a good thing, but it means that I'm using it up within that 3 year period. Now, this is not as much of a problem with most of you, and that we want to store these particular products that prevent the extremes in temperature, specifically cold weather. And so if you read the storage directions, which nobody, I don't think, does, many times right there under storage, it will say pesticide storage. It's telling you to keep the container closed and do not store near food or feed. So that's pretty straightforward. But here are some that I've cherry picked off of the labels. And if you looked at the first one, they're giving us a warning not to store, not to allow it to freeze. If it does, to remix it before using. Um, this is what I like. The next thing, this does not alter the product. Now, what it's telling you here is if you store it below 32 and it freezes, you can thaw it and it will still be good. Now, if you looked at the second bullet, they're giving me a little bit of a heads up on the temperature, which is generally not an issue for you folks at 100 degrees, but storing it below 20 may form crystals where it's starting to freeze. So it says store it at a higher temperature and agitate to re-dissolve the crystals. Now, what's important here is they're not telling me that there's no problem with efficacy from freezing. And you can see different on the last bullet, don't store below 10 degrees Fahrenheit. So the first step is to make sure when you're buying these products that you just kind of give it a quick look. It's one sentence, two sentences, as you can see here, not to let it
The second
freeze.
point here is that if you're going to store your products, some of these products freeze, some the heat impacts it, and other environmental conditions. So if we can protect the products from extreme heats and cold, then the product's going to be a better product over the long term. And again, long term is 2 or 3 years. And so in this case, I've got fans in this small trailer here. I've got a fan that is going to come on to move this heat. In this particular facility, all of the liquids are going to be taken out and is going to be put into a controlled room that's heated for the winter. Products that are left to extreme heat and cold break down quicker.
Now I'm showing you here this is inside of a tractor trailer, the trailer part that they've got it hooked up with fans, heat, electricity, and the rest of the stuff. And in some of your states that you come from, this may not be allowed, but here in Indiana, we can actually store products like this. And I like it because we can move it away from the main building. We can move it away from water. We can basically put it in an isolated place. In the event that something like a fire were to take place, we could deal with it separate from all of the equipment. And so if you can't control it specifically for freezing, one of the things is, and these are some older slides that I took on my journeys around, that people will put them in insulated boxes such as this, or insulated trailers such as this. And with 3 light bulbs, I can keep things from freezing. There's enough heat coming from it to do that. And I believe on this day up in the northern part of Indiana, it was a minus 20 degrees, and it was still keeping it above freezing. Probably one of the most important suggestions, because once these chemicals come into our storerooms, we basically lose track of them, not in the sense that they're lost, but we don't know when we purchased it. The employees, that's not something they keep track of. So what I really have pushed for years, a year now, is to put the purchase date, and I don't need the specific month and date. I just give me a year to help me identify when I go into the storage room.
One of the easiest things to make sure that we stay within that 2 or 3 year limit, and again, we could say 3 year limit for an expiration, would be to actually do what they're doing here, which is to label their different products with the year that it was purchased. So I now know that these were purchased in 2020. And so that I know that I've got a couple of years that I really want to make sure that I get this put in. Here is another product that was purchased in 2019. And this tells me then that this product now has got what? The 2019 season, probably in the 2020 season. I am starting to get close on what would be considered the expiration date. Now, the shelf life, again, may be a lot longer than that, but we don't know as the user. The part that concerns you just a little bit is as we look through these products, again, you're seeing here that he's got this dated right here, 2020, a lot of new products. Now, when I start looking back here, I begin to see 2007. I begin to see 2018. I begin to see different dates where they have purchased items, but they never got used up. The problem with that is this 2007 product still good? Is this 2018 product still good? All right, because we don't have expiration dates on these products. Now, I want to go back to this again. We're talking about shelf life. Does this one here still have a shelf life that would make it work? I would ask you this: how many of you would buy old seed that's out of date and try to plant it? How many of you, when we look at these products and we're trying at best to get 95% control of weeds, insects, and diseases, how many of you would be willing to take 50% because it's still got a shelf life? This is why we're focusing on this 3-year expiration date. So the idea here is then come this next spring, I want to put these products into play. I want these products here to start being used up for the intended purpose so that I can maximize my effectiveness of the application.
So when we took these videos, obviously everything was within the time frame of those new jugs. But the point was they had spent all this time marking up the containers, and yet they had let it not taken advantage of what those dates meant. So again, dating the containers so we visually I can tell, like I did going in here, when something has to be used. This is a common rotate old to the front, new to the back. You go to a grocery store, And what do? They put the new milk in the back, which is why you reach around to the back to grab the newest milk. They rotate the bread, which is kind of cool because with bread you really don't have to look at the expiration date. You just kind of look at where people have been squeezing them. But this is important, that just a very simple thing to do.
What's nice, again, we have dates. So let's assume that I had 2019 and I wanted to order more of the 2020. Just like we do in the grocery store, then we would take all of the 2019s, we would bring that to the front, and then I would take my 2020 materials and put them in the back. So that means the old comes to the front and the new comes to the back to help preserve those 2 or 3 years that are on the expiration date.
And every type of industry does this. And so making sure that we rotate the stocks, very simple, along with the date that you have on the container. And now you've gone a long way in ensuring that no matter which group, lawn care, pest control, right away, and whoever else is listening, to ensuring that these products, you're going to maximize the effectiveness of the product, which again is important based on what it costs to be able to use them. Now, this is one that's equally important, but it's one that is very difficult because when the manufacturers and distributors have a new product to sell, they're going to bring it out and they're going to promote the advantages of that new formulation, new active of whatever. We had one not too long ago at a up in Michigan, and the big sell on that was that that particular herbicide would not be infected by the environment after just a matter of minutes. And that was pretty important to the people there because it took the rain out of the whole equation. But the problem is, if I were to ask you now, as I'm going to ask you, and you'll answer to yourself, but would you rather use the old stuff or the new stuff that you bought? And the question is always the new stuff because it has advantages, which is why I bought it. I want you to reconsider that and to appreciate the fact that you could be having tens of thousands of dollars of products just sitting there of what used to work and still works, but you want to use the new stuff ahead. Use up the product. It's still a good product, okay? So let's take another shot at a video and see if we can show you what we're talking about.
Another technique that we just have to incorporate is, let's say, for instance, that I decided to switch to this product. Let's assume these were equivalent products, but I had a better price break on this one, or the research show it has less resistance, or whatever the case may be. So what happens here is we buy these new products, and because we're that's why we bought them, because for some reason they offer us something, and then we leave behind the old products. And then every year that this stays on the shelves, then we're losing part of that 3 years. And so the ideal here is, if I decide to go to this product in lieu of this, then what I want to do is in the springtime, put this into the system, use up, still a good product, it's worked for us forever, is to use up the product before it just sits on the shelves just waiting to be used.
Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Again, very simple strategies that we can do. Obviously, keep the dry products sealed because just if you think about the guys in lawn care, if you let fertilizer get a lot of moisture on it, clumps up, the salt clumps up, dry products will clump up with moisture, and then that helps to break the chemistries down. Suggestion number 7, as these products sit in our storage room, most of them don't dissolve in the liquid. They're what we call a suspension in there. And so what happens here is we want to make sure that the active, which depends on the inerts, are well mixed together before we make the application. So let me show you
The
what
other
that looks
component
like.
is are that most of our products are actually suspension. That is, that the products actually just float in the liquid, and that over time they settle. So anytime that you have a product that's just been sitting on a shelf, no matter whether it tells you to shake it or not, what we would like for you to do is to get it stirred up, because what you're trying to make sure is that inert and that active are together, mixed together, because that's how they work. I need both of them.
So if you have the inerts but don't have the actives together, then the inerts can't have the impact, which is to keep it from freezing, from mixing better. And there's a whole list of these inerts. In fact, these inerts are probably more critical to me than the active. The inerts is what makes the active, allows the actives to do its
So
job.
this one, we just saw what we would consider a thinner product. So let's look now at a much thicker product. This one happens to have atrazine as part of its component, which actually to thicken up. So let's take a look inside as we start the agitation process to see how having two different recirculation tubes, how it appears in the tank.
What I'm trying to show you here is on a large tank. So can you see how it's stirring? Looks like a malt. So what we're doing is taking the malt, the chocolate looking stuff and
If you look
remixing it.
here, the whole point of why we're agitating is what we're seeing are the oils that are basically had settled out. And so now what we're doing is trying to basically take this material and have it all spread, the oil spread throughout the whole
And this is important for your tanks as well. And folks, I can tell you this, that this agitation becomes more and more critical in our tanks as well. But again, it starts off right here. When you see products like this that tell you to shake well, they can't make that sticker any bigger to try to warn you. And I have to tell you before, yeah, whatever. But now that I appreciate what they're trying to get us, and you tell us, and you can see here that these products have settled out, that the actives and the inerts are no longer together. So if I was doing a termite treatment with this, I could be causing a lack of control because it's not mixed up. I don't have the right mixture of active and inert going out. That's the reason we shake them up. And again, on a termite house, not controlling the termites is obviously an area where people are sued all the time, both for damages and for other reasons. Even something like temperate here, and you can see if you kind of looked at the mixing part here, right below the ml, you can see that oily substance, and here you can see that it's separated. So all we're saying is just get it and shake it well, even if it doesn't tell me to. Um, this particular product said shake well before using, and it was interesting that I did not see that separation. And so sometimes apparently you can't see it separating like that. So in the right-of-way business, we get these kinds of containers. I mean, there's nothing exciting here. You just want to make sure that they're blended and that this tank is got a uniform distribution of the actives, the inerts, and whatever the carrier is, which for most of you is going to be water. Such a simple thing to do to help with the efficacy. This is one that I don't know if it's impossible to control or not. I've probably done this program 50 times now. And when I ask groups of people, what would you rather use? A partially open container, let's say that we're going to enter the fall and winter with a bunch of leftover containers. Come spring, we're going to get started with our application. And my question is, what would you rather use? Something that's not been opened or something that's opened? And I can tell you, I go in and out of these storage rooms all the time. It's just most people want to use the new stuff and not the old. Though there's nothing wrong with the old. It just sits there,
Brings us up to,
which is what we're
if
showing
you look
here.
at a lot of these things here, you see all these open containers that we've had over the different years. So part of the issue is, soon as we start opening these containers, then bad things begin to slowly happen. So what I would like to end the season with is not a whole bunch of these little pieces. I wish I could have collected them and used them, but I know one thing: come springtime, that all of these products that are open should be put into the system and used up as quickly as we can, so that we don't accumulate lots of these little open pieces, and they just sit there for years and for years.
I have some companies that in the springtime they will go through their trucks looking for open containers, and then bring them all back in, and then just make it a point to use up those containers. When you open up containers and oxygen can get to it, and other things, then some products are impacted by that. So what we want to do is to use up the small containers. So, if you think about what I've had you listen to, it's relatively simple things in storage. For me, the storage controls everything that's going to occur as we mix it, as we apply it, and we look at the results. So I'm asking you to read the storage directions to see if there's any warnings about usually temperature. If you control it in a controlled environment, it's another check. If I try to use the products within the same season, that's another check. This is something you can compare yourself to this list if what I'm telling you is accurate. Number four, don't buy more than a 2 year supply, even though you can get a better rate. It just seems to me that at this point we're beyond that. Get you a good price break, but you don't need to buy 5 years worth of pallets that's just going to sit there. Date the containers with the year. Rotate, put the old to the front, the new to the back. Use up what's being replaced instead of just letting it sit on the shelf. Use it up. Keep the product sealed. Shake the containers before you use them, and then use up the partial containers as soon as practical, as soon as possible. Such a simple thing that you can do to make sure that your products in storage are remaining at the highest efficacy that it can. And hopefully that makes sense. And I'll show you the publication at the end that this is in it. Now, what drove me to looking at this particular area was people asking me, is these products still good? And that's difficult. And it's difficult for a lot of reasons. Most of my answers normally will tend to be, it's no longer, in my opinion, effective. I will also tell you that the manufacturer can only do so much for you as well, and they're going to answer the questions in a similar way. They are not going to test individual containers unless you had pallets and pallets. There's not much that they're going to be able to do or willing to do, I should say. So here are the questions. When I go into a storage place, I always say, where's the good stuff? And a lot of you, the good stuff is up on that top shelf. It's up underneath somewhere where you can't see it. Stuff that when one superintendent has passed up on another, where a director of operations have come and they go, people come and go, employees come and go. And so these are the stuff that basically gets set back. Some of these are products that were still good, but we decided we didn't want to use them. And there's a whole list of reasons. That's what we're going to be looking for. Now, we're going to go through a list, and this is how I look at it to be able to answer the question. you even know what the products are. Sometimes you've lost the labels, you're not quite sure. Well, it kind of looks like, or I think it was, or whatever. So first of all, you can see this is nothing but a container full of garbage. It's broke down. We're not using it. If you don't know what the products are, then obviously I can't tell you that it's still good or bad, and I wouldn't even tell you how to use it, right? So that's a given. And that's the good stuff. A lot of the stuff that's been put back lost the labels. So I'm going to ask you, what are the products? And the reason I need to know the name is most states, and that includes, I assume, Texas, maybe all states, require a couple of things. The first one, to sell into that state, they have to be EPA registered, and then they also have to be state registered. So in Indiana, I'm sure just like Texas and the surrounding states that some of you folks come out of to work in Texas, um, they have to, the manufacturer has to pay a fee to help run those programs. So if it's not EPA registered, like the Proxol 80 SP, then I can't tell you you can use it. It's for disposal. If it's EPA registered, but not state registered, I can't tell you to use it. If there is a lot, occasionally I've had manufacturers then go ahead and pay the fees to get it registered, but you're going to have to be a really good company for them in terms of buying products, because they're probably not going to spend the money to do that. And it's up to them to supply that. So if they're not registered with the feds or the state, my answer is disposal. We have, again, out there, we have a disposal program that we have 6 or 7 sites that our state Department of Ag, equivalent to yours, DDT still out there, and these are some of the products that they've been able to pick up. Chlordane still is out there. These are products that you could no longer legally use in your business. Um, this is one for bed bugs. I mean, bed bugs is pretty big business in some areas, but there's a bed bugs back in, what is that, glass? Is that glass? Yeah, it looks like glass jars. You don't see very many products in glass jars anymore. This is a fumigant, and some of the tablets that we see. Again, they're no longer EPA registered, no longer state registered, so you cannot use more DDT kinds of products. All right, let's assume then I know what it is. Both of them are state and federal registered. My next question is, how were they stored? So what I'm going to do is, here is a particular label. Store this product above 32 to avoid crystallization. Uh, was it stored above 32? No, Fred, it wasn't. It was in a barn. Then it's a goner. Um, if it was stored there, that's a plus, right? That says, okay, I know what it is, it's registered, and probably temperature is not going to be the problem. Has it been opened? If you tell me yes, then that's how old is it? And if we know that, then I'm going to say that's a pretty old product. It's been opened. We're going to junk it. We're going to have it properly disposed of. Again, these are just my best guesses to it. Um, Sometimes you can actually get the age of it. Uh, you can see, oh, I'm sorry. You can see on the right here on the Demon Max, the Syngenta did a nice job telling me the release date is 3/17. So that now puts it at what, 8 years old, something like that. And then other times, like you look at Termidor here, that information is not there. And so what you can do is tell the manufacturer, here is my code on this one. can you tell me how old the product is if you didn't have dates on it? And most people, when we're talking about these kinds of products, never put the date on it like we do here and more recently. So we age of the product, the storage condition, has it been opened? What does it look like? And so if you looked at this one up in the corner here, that's the one that we're going to focus on.
Now, we should have questions once we go beyond the 3 years. And let's assume that the manufacturers, 2 or 3 years is what they're shooting for, but they also know that it could be much, much longer. But this is what they're going to give you a warranty on, which is basically replace the product if it doesn't work. So here we are with an extremely old product here. And you say, Fred, is that any good? And I'm going to say, okay, have you had it more than 3 years? Yep, I have. Did you store it where it was temperature controlled? I did. Had the product ever been opened? Yes, it has. And so I start checking off a list that things that we talked about. And so I would say, man, this is going to be a hard one. So the process you would go through would be to take this container.
And you can
And
look
you
at
would
the
try
chunks
to
coming
actually
off that
see
container when I
if in
shake
this
it.
particular example, if I could actually make sure that everything is mixed up well, I would look at it and I would say, does it look like it should look like? Because I have experience with it. Does it have an unusual odor? Uh, is it not mixing back up? So that would be one. And if you said, Fred, it doesn't look like the old stuff, and I would say dispose of it. Second question would be, let's do a jar test. Let's mix it up with chemicals that I normally do, and let's see how it mixes up. Most people don't want to do that, but that would be an option. The third option would be to look on the container itself, if we could read it here. And on this one here, I can't read anything on it anymore in terms of a basically a stamp where they stamped it. And let me show you if we can find one here. It's like the barcode of the product. Uh, it might be something like this right here that's stamped on the bag. All right. Because while they don't tell us when these were manufactured, the manufacturer can look at these codes and tell us when the product was made. They can tell us those kinds of things, where it was made. And I'm going to look on this one here to see if, in fact, uh, uh, it might be this code right here that's stamped on it. So you're going to look on these particular products to find something that's stamped on the container, not the label. And that it goes back to by asking the manufacturer. They can tell me when it was made, where it was made, and if this is a product that they have a long history with, then they might have data to tell me that that this product still may be good. But is a lot of bets, and they're going to say it's been opened, it's been stored improperly. Then the answer is it probably won't work. And the last thing to do, if you're willing to try to save some of this money, some of these products are costing 1,500-1,700 bucks for a 2.5 gallon container, or $100 for other products. It's lots of money. One is to take the product and just go ahead and do a trial run on an area of ground that you can actually do the testing to see if it works. If it kills weeds, you'll see it. If it kills insects, you will see it. The only one that we would not do this for are the fungicides, because no matter what industry you're in, if you apply the fungicides and they're not working, you've let the diseases escape, and there may not be any way of pulling that back. Whereas if it's weeds or insects, you can always come back and spray them. And then the last option is to assume that these are no good. which may be the easiest option, and just say, okay, I just wasted a lot of money. I got to do better on my inventory. So let's go ahead and get rid of it. The state chemist will have these pesticide pickups every year. You should take advantage of it if you have these products, and just get them out of your system. And so if you do that, we're right back to the 10 steps that we talked about. Buy only what you need for the year, put a date on it, rotate your stock. If you've got open containers, just go ahead and use them up at the end of the year or at the beginning of the next season. Some real simple, basic things that we can do.
Now, this trial run assumes that the products are actually registered with your Department of Ag. Our Department of Ag here is called the Indiana Office of Indiana State Chemist. It's equivalent to your Department of Ag's, your pesticide section. You can ask them the question, is it still registered? The trial run, again, it's pretty easy. Herbicide, insecticides, mixing up as the label indicates and spray. If they work, they work. If they don't, then you can come back and retreat if you have a lot of product. But most of you are asking about just a few jugs here and there, and it's probably not worth the time and effort. We'll eat that cost and have it disposed of. Most states, in some form or fashion, will offer these, let's call them tox away days. That's more for consumers. We will offer programs where you commercially and or as a farmer will bring your products to us, and then the state Department of Ag will contract out with these folks, and you're just seeing one of them here. The kinds of materials that people are bringing in to them. Again, as we saw, people still have DDT on hand, products that have no longer in use. And so what we ask you to do is to take all of those products that you have stored in out of the way places, put them on a pallet, put them somewhere, have them organized so when you have that pesticide pickup day in your area, ours is basically free, free to the persons bringing them in. Obviously, there is a tremendous cost in disposing of this stuff, but the state funding, along with federal funding, and including some of extension funding, have paid for it. Some of you in states have taxes that are put on these products that go into a fund that helps with the disposal. You should take advantage of it. You shouldn't be afraid of it, because eventually, if you go to sell your business, as an example, and you have these old products in it, they're going to knock off the price of whatever it costs to dispose of it. The disposal fee, when you do this personally, is astronomical, versus going on these collection sites where the company comes in, they're EPA certified, they have a certain series of steps to get rid of it that they're going to follow. And it's cheaper because they make one stop and everybody comes to them. And I put this in because I knew we would have a lot of pest control people there. And folks, I realize that sometimes things happen, but I'm looking at all of this new product that somebody's just throwing away. And I'm thinking of all the good money that went into it, how many accounts I would have done, how this basically is eating up profit. And this one here really shocked me, of people bringing stuff in like this. And so the purpose is, maybe I'm not using that bait anymore and I've switched to something else. Why not use this up? It just doesn't seem to make sense to me at all. So instead of throwing away my money and taking advantage of the disposal, some of these products can't be used. And so that's where that disposal comes into play. If I'm a new person managing a company, or if I bought a company and I've got some old product, then just segregate this stuff and take advantage of these disposal. But instead of doing for the new stuff, the simple things, read the storage, keep it from freezing, use it the same year, which limits how much you're going to have on your shelf. Your money can actually do better drawing interest than it does sitting there getting zero on the shelves. Limit your supplies specifically to the products that you don't use very much of. Date the containers, rotate your stock. We've just repeated this 3 times, but you can see versus what you just saw on the disposal. Use up the old product that's being replaced. Shake the containers up and use up partial containers. So basically, in conclusion, what we're looking at is just spending a little bit of time by managing your inventory, no different than what every other industry does. And it doesn't make a difference what area that you're at. They're all managed in inventory in similar manners. The recommendations that we gave to you can be easily put in. It's not going to cost you much, but it's that ability to keep things fresh so that you don't have to ask me, are these products still good? Or where is the next disposal site so I can get rid of this stuff? That's what I'm trying to prevent, allowing us to use it up without pitching it away. And so here is the publication. Is this pesticide on my shelf still good? I would be glad to send you a free copy of this extension publication. It's number PPP for Purdue Pesticide Programs 142. There is my name. I work for Purdue. And then there is my email, fwhitford@purdue.edu. So if you want to send me an email, I will be glad to send this to you. So I guess my final conclusion is I hope that from my presentation, you were able to judge how you store your products as compared to what I think is the ideal way of doing it. And if there's one or two things that you can learn from this presentation and actually put it into your storage program, then I've won and you've won. So with that, I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you and look forward to hopefully in future years having the same opportunity to reach out to you. Again, thank you very much.